and turnips and things where you plant one seed, you're gonna get one fruit, unless you let it go to seed, and then you'll get many, many more seeds from that. If anybody is wanting their operation to be like seed production, talk to me, because I really love seed saving. It's very special, like it's very particular, it's very special, as you know, being part of that big seed collection. And also it is very meticulous. Like if you want to do it proper, you do have to like make sure that you're not like at the garden we seed save, because it's really fun and it's great to talk about, but if you were like starting a seed saving like company or like wanting that to be for profit, you would want to like make sure that you're like separating your seeds so you're not cross-pollinating and all of that stuff. So it's a deeper conversation, but I think it's really, really cool how one seed can then give you many, and just how special they are to the earth. And like that's why I wanted to like check in with everybody. You know, a lot of like plants mirror us, and like we are just like them in many, many ways. And I just think it's really cool how one seed can give you so much. So let's get into seeds. So work on plants that will transplant, but direct sowing. And again, y'all just interrupt me if you're talking too fast or you have a question. Just feel free to like interrupt me. But direct seeding is when you don't do what we're going to do today. You just take your seed and you put it into the space that it's going to grow in. A lot of plants or a lot of seeds that you want to start with direct sow are ones that have a harder casing on them, like beans. A lot of seeds in the cucurbit family, which are cucumbers, loofahs are in that family. A lot of things like carrots, beets, turnips, things that don't like root disturbance. And especially larger seeds are ones that you're going to want to like directly sow. Smaller seeds you will want to start in a seed tray, because they're tiny and you have a bigger chance of like losing them in your big old pile of dirt. Mother Nature takes over and then there go your seeds. So either way, but it can be you know, less work and less need for equipment, but they are exposed to more. Direct sown seeds have drought tolerance, and then their roots, so you're really like, their roots are placed and their roots get a chance to actually like develop and strive in the area that they're going to be in. Have you ever transplanted something and then it just like looks like, even like plants that are okay to, if you don't like, if you plant it too deep, if you don't water it in after you do it, and they just kind of look like you eliminate that when you direct sow your seeds. And some crops don't transplant easily, which I already spoke about. Melons have fragile stems and roots, for instance, and carrots and other root vegetables get distorted if transplanting. And some crops have millions of plants that you couldn't possibly transplant enough, and those are those really, really tiny seeds like carrots. Now, when you do sow seeds that are really, really tiny, odds are you're not going to get one seed at the length away that you need it to be. You need at least like 4 to 6 inches in between like the carrots, ideally, right? Carrots, beets, turnips, you want to give them space. If you can get like one seed every 6 inches, like come teach me your ways, because that is like just like, I know some people that use like a toothpick, but again, time is money, right? So like you want to like use a toothpick, you have to look the side, touch a seed, get it in, and do that for like the distance in between each plant that you need. So that's kind of like crazy. So odds are when you are direct sowing tiny seeds, you are going to have to thin out your seeds after they sprout, which is really important. You want to make sure that you thin out your plants after you direct sow. Are helpful, and you always want to start by, even if it's a seed that you are used to growing, I still read seed packets just to see what that seed producer is saying about it. But a lot of times, a lot of the information that we are getting in like seeds and pretty much most agricultural like literature, it's not necessarily for southern growing. There are of course many books, and there's some resources in our Google Drive that have it. I don't know what I did. I'm like, what'd you do? There are some resources in our Google Drive that I have for like southern growing, but so seed packet, make sure that you're like also making sure it's applicable to like our weather. Transplanting are that you'll start seeds into more ideal conditions in a greenhouse for better growth, which is more fun. You can start earlier than outside, and so you get earlier harvest, right? So if you, for instance, you know how we were just talking about tomatoes. I know we just were like, don't grow tomatoes, it's hard here. But there are some things you can do to like make it a little more fun, is if you start some tomato plants in a greenhouse in, let's say, December. And then as soon as that last frost is gone in like February, like once like end of February, March hits us, then you can immediately like put like up potted, and you'll want to like up pot your plant eventually, right? So if you're putting a 4-inch potted plant into your garden, you might get a higher chance of like actually getting tomatoes before summer hits us in May, and then it's like all over. So that is a benefit of a greenhouse. It's like, you know, you can like kind of play with Mother Nature a little bit more. Again, like it's all a gamble, but it's one of the benefits of it. Transplants have more flexibility if the weather turns out bad. You can get more successions of crops from a bed and fit more crops into the season. Plus you can use time, you can cover crop. You'll save on seed costs as you won't be thinning, what I talked about earlier, when you're like, if you're doing this for profit and you like know how much each seed costs, and you're like, okay, I'm thinning now, I've thinned away like this much that I could have made in profit. You don't have to do that if you're starting it in the greenhouse. Now, of course, that being said, there's just some plants that you don't have that option. You have to directly sow it. So some seed companies make pelleted seeds for plants like carrots and stuff, and I'll be honest, I don't enjoy pelleted seeds. I think they're weird. I've noticed in their growing. So pelleted seeds, so you can get like a carrot. I keep talking about these damn carrots, but the seeds are so small. But you can get them where they make them so that they're balls, like little tiny balls, and it's just like a manufacturer. Like it's still a seed, but they like, I don't even know the way they do it because I don't enjoy it. Yeah, so they're thicker, right? So then that way you have less of a chance of way less loss. Some might go to seed, right? It always depends on our winter, but that is like going to be one of the longest crops that you have in a garden, especially in our climate. And so that's something if you're wanting to grow for market or for just community, whatever it is. So it's really important that you're planning out, and even if you're just planning it out for your family, right? It's still important to plan what you're growing if you're trying to be able to use what you're growing to feed yourselves for the long haul. Because carrots can take like 45 to 60 days, right? And like there's some, but then certain lettuces are gonna like pop up, and after 10 to 15 days you're able to harvest it. So you just want to know what you're growing, plan it out, depending on your size that you have to grow in and how many folks you're trying to feed. Right? When to harvest. I have a lot of spreadsheets. I do a lot of spreadsheets. I have, but it's also like our community garden. So the way it's set up, and you'll hear this spiel on Thursdays, that like some of the community beds are for families and individuals, and then some are community constantly because we want to have like 24/7 harvestable food. So again, really, it's like how much space is there? What also helps like add to healthy soils. So crop rotation is very important. And like I said, it's just important for organic growing practices. Okay, let's go to the greenhouse. Let's make some seed trays for everybody. When we go, you can see how they all like popped up. So, and I'll give everybody a chance to come over. So when a seed first sprouts and it gets this first seed, that is a good sign. That means that it's germinated and it's there. But it's not until, so the first two leaves are called a cotyledons. When it gets more, when there are more leaves than that, that is when it's the true leaves of the plant. This is still technically a seed, right? Like this is just the seeds, like first little sprout. That is not at all, like that is just the seed doing its little thing. And then afterwards, when it gets more like these, which these got started maybe like 2 weeks ago. And so these have true leaves on them. And they're like, they still need way more time, of course. And as you can see in some of these, there have been multiple seeds that got dropped, right? So this is when you would come in and you would typically like pull this one out. Like I would like after you like see like When you see like true germination start to happen, I'm not gonna thin this because like it's crazy. And also like that you might risk the other one not coming up, right? So I find that it's better to start thinning out once it's like bigger like this, when it's in the 70 true cell trays. Aphids are like, thank you, I'm here to shine. And they love greenhouses, and they will just jump plant to plant, and then you'll have like a whole infestation, and you can lose not only your crops. It's really important too in our greenhouse because it is a community greenhouse, and so like I tell all of this to y'all, hey, how are you? All this is important for y'all because when you come here on your own to like tend to your plants, whether you get a grow or whatever it is you're just using the greenhouse, keep your eyes peeled on not only your plants but other plants as well. If you come in and you see an aphid, like you see an aphid ridden, whether it's 4-inch pots or if it's just, it's typically more when they're on the 4-inch pots, but sometimes it can happen to the trays, just from my experience and what I've seen. Pull it out and tell that person, right? So like what you're gonna do today is you're gonna, so like all these say refresh, that means that you should call me, right? If it says refresh. These plants over here say Margie, because these are Margie's plants. The plants over there say Noka, because they belong to Noka, right? So like if when you come and you see a diseased plant, it's really important in your own greenhouse, but super important in community spaces to make sure you label, put your name so that people know who to contact if there's anything wrong. And it's also important for like, we want to be mindful. It unfortunately happens, but sometimes plants get taken, right? Like it's just, you want to really minimize that as much as possible. So making sure that you're labeling is very, very, very important.